Oh, my name is Gerry Kitchen. I've been asked by Daryl if I'd like to put a couple pieces of my photographs on show, and I said, fantastic idea. To give you a background, I started getting interested in my photo during high school years, and shortly after high school I decided I was going to get into photography and make a career of it. Decided to go to school, and I found the one I picked was down in California, a place called Brooks Institute. And I was there for 3 years or thereabouts until I graduated. Moved back to Canada, and I was in Edmonton for 5 years. And my first job was printing color for the government of Alberta. And I spent 5 years enjoying learning and everything about color because it was just coming out. Back then, it was about 21, 23 minutes just to develop a color sheet of paper. So it was fun. Then I found an opening in Calgary after 5 years at SAIT, and they were looking for someone to teach basic black and white in the photojournalism course, which I went down to see if I could get it. And they hired me on the spot, and I taught for 5 years, and it was fun doing that. About that time, they just opened up ACA building, and they were going to set up something in photo to help the students. And I went over there and I talked them into setting up a professional level of photography, and they bought my idea. And so I had to write a whole program for this sort of thing. And
that's Alberta College of Art.
That was Alberta College of Art and Design nowadays. And so we set that up and had to hire another photographer to help out because of the number of people. But that was for 5 years as well, and I took a leave of absence just to I wanted to get out and try things so I could teach better. At that time, I went out and I was finding all those things out, and it was so much fun that I went into business after I was enjoying it so much. And it was around those years, after a few years of that, that I met Daryl, and I was looking for someone to help out doing some of my color printing. And Daryl was doing a fantastic job at London Drugs, and so back in those years is when I met him. And we've been touching base ever since.
What's your specialty? Is it wide format on the large printing, or is it the small prints that you prefer?
It was, well, in business, it was kind of called the bigger the better. You could make more money making a big print and selling it, but in those days, 35 wasn't quite as good as 120, so I got into Hasselblad 120, and that was my main camera. But as the film started getting a little better, I tried 35, because you could cover more, easier, lighter, and so on. And that's when I slowly switched to 35 millimeter, and that's where it was much better to go to the lab and have them do that sort of thing rather than all that printing. So it was in those years that I was doing a lot of photography in 35, but it was the digital years were just starting, and I got into it kind of slowly in a way, because I bought the first body and I just wasn't too happy about the quality of it. So I think it was the second body that I sort of started slowly getting into digital, and after a few years of that, there was no lab work and everything, so I decided to switch into digital like most of the world was doing. And so even then, you come down to London Drugs and they would take your digital and make some nice prints for you, because didn't have a lab anymore, so you had to rely on London Drugs to do all your printing for you.
So you find London Drugs suits your professional needs as well as your own home consumer needs?
Oh yes, they're professional people. They know exactly what they're looking for and how to do it and how to look after them to keep their name up in the scale of photography.
So this work that's behind you here, is this something that you've done, and is this part of your portfolio?
It's basically yes, but I used to enjoy getting out and do all the nature colored photography and so on. So when I had a few spare minutes, I would try and find something like this and go out and do that and bring it in, and Gerald would make a big print, and it even looked better then. So that's the reason for my enjoyment in photography for all these years.
Currently, the equipment that you're using to shoot digital?
It's all digital now.
Is it, which brand are you using?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm in Nikon now, and it's whittled it down to my early days. The films and the lenses weren't as well made as they are now. In the early days, I had all fixed focal lengths because zooms in those days wouldn't give me the quality I was looking for. But when I finally decided to go into 35, they were getting better and better, and I whittled it down to 9 lenses instead of about 19, and you could cover the whole thing with 35. And if it made a 20-inch print from 35, I was happy to go 35.
Is there a special interest that you have in photography when you're shooting for yourself?
It was all commercial, but when you had spare time, I used to like going out and covering nature shots and whatnot. That was always interesting. Animals was another one. I'd get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and head out of town somewhere just to find the deer moving certain time of the year and different things like that. And that's some scenery. Well, I used to love it in the morning. Sunrises are beautiful, and you can catch that sort of lighting, and you have to be sort of semi-retired, of course, to be able to do that. But if you're working, you need some sleep as well. But anyway, it's been very good. That's where London Drug came in. When you're doing these sort of things, you'd bring them in the film, they'd let you look at the proofs, and then you'd pick a big one you wanted made, and they would look after all that for you.
So Gerry Kitchen is one of our featured photographers in our World Photography Day here at London Drug Store 32 in Southwest Calgary at London Place West. You can see more of his work either displayed in our store or on location at the London Drugs London Place West Richmond Road location. Thanks, Gerry.
My pleasure. Thank you very much for your help.